Welcome to Lead with Thanks, the bite-sized interview series from Thankbox, where we spotlight leaders who know that appreciation isn't just a nice to have, it's a game changer for workplace culture. My name is Tsvetelina Hinova, I'm co-founder of Thankbox, and in each episode I'll be chatting with inspiring leaders and HR professionals who are putting gratitude at the heart of how they lead. Let's get going! Welcome back to Lead with Thanks. I'm so excited to have Vikki Gledhill with us today to talk all about appreciation. Welcome, Vikki.
Hello, good morning. Glad to be here.
So, Vikki, I think I've been telling everyone about you. If your ears have been burning, it's because of me. I first came across you while listening to the Culture Whisperer podcast, which is led by Dawn Smedley. And I remember listening to the episode and thinking to myself, I just need to know more detail. I need to ask a lot of questions. And I think you mentioned your F1 Awards program, and I've got a soft spot for F1. So I'm like, wow, so intrigued. And then we had the conversation, and I was even more mesmerized by all the creativity you apply in your role every single day. So I'm just really grateful that you are with me today. I know you're super busy, so thank you so much. And I'm really excited to get stuck in the conversation.
Yeah, me too. Love to talk about this. It's a good subject.
It is, isn't it? But before we dive into it, do you mind just sharing a bit about yourself, what your career journey has been up until today? What are you passionate about?
Yeah, no problem. So hi everyone, Vikki Gledhill. I'm currently the Head of Reward and Pensions at Yorkshire Water. I've been here since the 1st of May, so quite new to this company, but I've been in reward, 20 years or so. So I've been previously, I worked within food manufacturing, and then I went on to airports. I was at MAG Airports, and then automotive, so Cox Automotive, and then to Yorkshire Water. So from a reward perspective, kind of similar activity, different industries and different challenges, but also commonalities as well. So you often see some of the same challenges depending on which industry. So I've pretty much been in, I did try kind of generalist HR. I wasn't that great at that. I'd had a stint in sales and marketing before that, but then I sort of discovered reward. I did the administration for the benefits for quite a while when I was HR administrator, so I came up that route. I just thought that, so I've always been kind of really involved in the benefit side of things, and then that sort of grew when I was at Northern Foods. I got a reward and policy role, and then the reward manager, and my career sort of grew from there. So I just really love the kind of, no 2 days are the same in reward. It's quite challenging, and I've seen it really differ throughout the years. So kind of 15 years ago, it was reward roles were few and far between, but luckily I think most industries are seeing the value in reward roles these days, and certainly over the last kind of 5 or 6 years we've seen a lot more talk, a lot more networking, a lot more roles within reward, which is amazing, because I think people are finally seeing the value of what a difference that can make in terms of culture and the employee experience, and how that's just widening from being pure compensation, and it's wider than that now. It's a major part of the employee value proposition. So that's why I love it, and the difference that you can make. And I have a bit of a psychology background as well, and I always thought that my two role, like that interest in that, I've done hypnotherapy and psychotherapy.
Wow.
Studying people. So I always thought that they were quite separate, the corporate life and the psychology side. And actually it merges, because if you think about reward, recognition, it's all about understanding people, what makes people tick, what do people want. Everybody's different. So there's a real commonality actually as I've gone through my career and and realise that, so that both of those sides of things bring value to the role, I think.
I love that. I love that you combine the two together. And of course, they're so interlinked. Like when you're dealing with people to such a deep level, you need to understand how they think, what they feel, and how that affects their work life. That's, yeah, amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
You've got such a vast experience. And I mean, I think that's also from our conversation, that's what I loved about you, how you link the different aspects of your career and your knowledge and marketing and psychology and all of that together. It's amazing, and I can't wait to get stuck into that. But before we do that, can you tell me a story about a time when you felt appreciated or rewarded at work? What was the situation? How did it make you feel?
The most recent time I can remember is just before I started Yorkshire Water, and that was my current line manager here. So I'd done a couple of days, attended a few meetings before I actually started. And before I even started, my line manager sent me a handwritten note thanking me for my time and the effort that I put in prior to starting, and how much she was looking forward to working and what we were going to achieve when I actually started. And I just thought, oh, that was really, one, it was handwritten, so she'd gone out and actually bought a physical card and taken the time to write a message and taken time out of her very, very busy schedule to kind of deliver that in person. So that really stuck out. It was the most recent experience, but it was a very meaningful one because it was so personal, and it was kind of before I even started work. So that made a lot to the way I was thinking about work, and I was very excited to be starting with Yorkshire Water at that point, and that sort of set the tone really nicely for me, and really made a difference. But then wider than that, I kind of have to think about some set examples, and it's not really examples that I remember, it's actual line managers. So when I think about where I felt really appreciated, it's where my managers, and I've been really lucky with some managers, not all of them, but mainly I've had some brilliant line managers in the past, and they've really kind of coached me and got to know me, and I think that has been a fundamental part. So they've got to know me as a person, what makes me tick, what I need to in order to kind of do a good job, and appreciation is very much part of that. So they've just been naturally very good at it. So I think some people are. So it's really knowing me as a person. So those managers that I really think have made a fundamental difference in my career have been kind of understanding me, knowing me, and that's made a real difference. So I think that's a massive part of making appreciation and recognition work, is getting to know your people and what makes them tick, how are you going to get the best out of them? Because not everybody likes the same amount of appreciation. Some people like it publicly, some people feel horrified by that. So really getting to know what your individual team members want and need.
It's back to psychology and understanding people beyond their payroll number and beyond their work role, isn't it?
It really is.
What they like in life, what they care about, what they're passionate about, and introducing that within their work life.
Yeah, which all management, the line managers should be doing in all areas, not just appreciation and recognition, but it's so important. Your well-being, getting to know people on an individual level, can really get the best out of people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the problem sometimes is that we get so busy and so caught up into achieving the numbers and achieving the KPIs that we forget that ultimately, if we pay attention to people, if we get to know them, we will move those numbers easier. But
absolutely. And that's why another thing I love about reward, if you can get that right, and appreciation and recognition is a massive part of that, then how that affects productivity. And I always say, we're not just being nice here. There is an actual commercial reason for doing this, as well as just being nice people. If you can increase that productivity and how people's emotional connection with the workplace is vitally important. So if they feel valued, if they feel kind of appreciated, you know yourself, when you do feel appreciated, you give way more of yourself than you would if you're feeling a bit neglected or a bit kind of used, for want of a better word. So it's a really good one to remember. It's hard sometimes to put a kind of value on what you can get back from investing in an appreciation and recognition kind of portal or money that you need in order to do that appreciation. But I think it's really valuable to remember that the productivity can't always be measured in terms of black and white scores, but it certainly in business results.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Do you think people are starting to understand the link between appreciation and reward and productivity? Do you think like people are starting to acknowledge that there's a strong correlation between the two?
I think definitely. Certainly, when we first did appreciation, which was my first time doing it, was at the airport. So that was 10 plus years ago, and it was quite not many places really had a formal scheme at that point. And these days, it's considered the norm. If you don't have one, then you're kind of behind times. Certainly, the different generations and the younger generation just expect the appreciation and that's in place. So it's definitely picked up over the last sort of 10 years for sure.
That's what we want to hear, isn't it? Like that's what we try to achieve here. Get as many people as we can on board of appreciation and understand the benefits, both personal and business benefits from it. I guess my question is, it's great that we see so many businesses now understanding the value of it, but what have you seen work? How can businesses achieve a proper reward and appreciation?
Yeah, it's got to support your culture. And if you think back, so at the airport we did a VIP scheme, and that was values in practice. So what that was there for is we had 5 values written on paper. Nobody had heard of them. They didn't really, they were just words on a paper. So very much part of that ambition was to bring those values to life. What did that mean? What did those values mean? What was good examples of those values? Because that's what we were saying as a business was important to us and our culture. So it was important then that the workforce knew what that was about. So that was the name of that scheme, and that worked really well. And in the end, people were just talking about the values. We had values pins. We had around your lanyard. So whenever you got recognised for one of the values, you get a little values pin. People loved them. It got quite competitive, and you could collect all 5. And then if you collected all 5, you got a gold pin.
Wow.
So that worked really well, and people really thought a lot about them, and they got a lot of talking points as well, because obviously they were in security and they had these on their lanyard. It got people talking. It got passengers asking about them as they were going through. So that really helped with that kind of ambition from that side of things, as well as giving all that appreciation as well. And at Cox Automotive, it was trying to kind of pull it all together. And again, we used there were guiding principles there. So we used our guiding principles, but linked it together with the wider total reward scheme. So we had when I got at Cox Automotive, there was a lot of good stuff in place, but nobody really knew about it or associated it as being part of the same thing. So we sort of rebranded the whole reward program and called it Gear Up, because it was the automotive industry, so it had a link. And then the Gear Up Grand Prix scheme was the appreciation and recognition part of that. So the Grand Prix was all about cars. So we had like pole position. We had podium winners. So it's things like you had your nominations, which was the qualifiers. So we really used that quite a lot. It was just a fun. It reflected the culture. It was quite a fun, informal, non-corporate environment. So that was important to reflect that. And just have a bit of fun with it. So the nominations, the monthly nominations, they would be the qualifiers, and they'd go on to be the podium winners, would be the monthly winners for each of the guiding principles. And then they would go on to race day, and then that would lead into an annual event. And then we also had kind of pole position awards, which were the manager moments that matter, if you like, awards. So it worked really well, and that sort of language was used rather than reward or recognition, or it was just known as the Grand Prix or a pole position, or so it took away that sort of typical textbook language and brought it more personal to that company.
Do you think that's what made it a success, that you replaced the corporate language almost with something that's a little bit more relatable to the staff?
Definitely, because it's people just it was just common language then. It ended up, and it took kind of 3 or 4 years to really embed the full scheme and the wider scheme as well. So not just the Grand Prix piece of it, but the whole gear up branding, and people were just, by the time I'd left there, people just talked about that, and they're just like, oh, we'll go visit Gear Up and you can do X, Y, Z, rather than it wasn't the recognition scheme or the reward scheme. So it took away that part of it and gave it this fun language, which was much more meaningful to people. Because I always think of reward and recognition being, you need to do a marketing campaign to your employees. I see it as that. So wherever there's a brand, you need a marketing campaign to sell that in, and it can't just be launched. You've got to be constantly doing activity and promoting it, and doing almost like doing your adverts. You know, if you think of any big brand, they do a lot of advertisements. You see that logo and you know straight away it creates an emotional kind of reaction to you, whether that's good or bad. Some brands, but obviously wanting somebody to see that logo or that brand and know that it's something of benefit to them. So it might be money, or it might be just a thank you, but it's aligned to that, and they know that it's of value to them in some way.
I think that's brilliant, because of course people say treat your employees as you treat your customers, but they all mean it almost in a be kind and appreciate and do the best for them, but also sell to them the right way. So market to them the right way that is applicable to them, that they can understand, that doesn't feel corporate, doesn't feel like a tick box, something that they can relate to. I love that. So did you partner with the marketing team to build this campaign?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so we were lucky at Cox Automotive. We had an internal brand and marketing team, so they were instrumental in that. We sort of did the brief, what we were trying to achieve, and then they created some options for us that matched the kind of tone and also the look and feel as well, because it had to match with the look and feel of the company. And we're just doing a very similar thing at Yorkshire Water. We're just about to launch our new reward brand in January. So that's been a similar exercise. It looks very different because it's a different industry, it's different considerations, but the principle is the same. You wanted to take that, bring it all together so that people know it's of benefit to them, and once they see that language, they recognise it.
I love that. I think that's brilliant, and it's not the obvious thing. I think quite often teams work in silos, and especially like it's hard sometimes for the HR team to get involved in every team. So, and also another thing that you said is that it doesn't matter how creative and unique the program is, it still needs time. And I think people forget that sometimes, that you can have the best program, but it still needs time to get accepted by the team and by the staff, your employees.
It really does. And I think that's probably one of my top tips in making any appreciation and recognition program work, that you can't just launch it and then expect it to work. It is literally a consistent, you've got to be continual with your promotion and talking about what good looks like. And I mean, we're always laughing with Dawn from the Culture Whisperer, who somebody once asked her what job she did when she was an appreciatologist in her former job. And she sort of said, well, to put it simply, I do reward charts for adults. And I thought, well, that really does sum it up, doesn't it? Because when you're trying to enforce what behaviours are important to you and what are going to make the difference to your business, that's ultimately what it's there for. And then you're giving rewards for that behaviour. So you need to talk about those examples. And I loved that. I'm like, well, that is so true. It does take it back to the basics.
Yeah.
You're almost wanting to talk about those, what good looks like, so that other people can then kind of copy or do other examples of that great behaviour.
Yeah. God, that's so true.
Yeah, the good one, isn't it?
I've got a young daughter, and obviously we go through that all the time. At some point, as you grow up, you forget about these things.
You do.
You forget that the basics are the same. Doesn't matter if you're 5 or 25 or 35.
Well, you still want to know you're doing a good job, don't you? At the end of the, no matter how old you are, you still want to know you're on the right track, or you're doing things right. The principle of it is still the same. And then the other really important part is getting some advocates from the workforce. So as much as leadership commitment is vitally important, obviously, and they've got to be behind it, I do think, when I think back, the most impactful support we've had for the schemes, both at the airport and at Cox, has been via the kind of advocates from the workforce, because it's not then just management or HR that's talking about this scheme. It's actually their colleagues. So that's really important. We had some great advocates at the airport, and they were people who, well, one person had been recognised through the VIP scheme, and he was just blown away by his recognition, and then he continued to be a massive advocate. He talked to all his colleagues, he was in security, and he was brilliant. He really helped us embed the scheme and talk about it, and people trusted him, because he was not talking about it from a management perspective or anything like that. It was just how it had made him feel, and that really helped. And then there was another gentleman who ended up a massive advocate as well. And actually, where that came from is he had some feedback in not quite a positive way for us of when we launched the scheme. And I sort of said, well, that's fine. If I'm open for feedback. If you've got some better ideas to help us develop this, well, please come and work with us and help us do this. So from that point, he absolutely took that on board. And so he took it from being well, why are you doing this, to this is never going to work, to really helping us support that. And he used to come in on his days off, and he used to help us when we were doing any promotional activity. So he really, he was probably the top advocate of the scheme at that point. And he went from being what could have been a kind of detractor to the scheme to being an absolute supporter. So get them involved. It's not just your scheme or a leadership scheme. It's got to be used by the full workforce, and that's really important.
I love that, because such a simple thing, just get them involved, take their feedback on, and then they change immediately from detractor, as you call them, to absolute promoters. What absolutely amazes me is that it's the simple things that make a difference to people. You don't need the complicated platforms or anything. You just need simple, regular appreciation, or in this case, just involve the person. And I absolutely agree with what you said, that you should involve their peers in the launching the program, in marketing it, etc. We try to do the same when we advise people, our customers, on their programs. We say you need to have promoters within the business, and they shouldn't be from management. Of course, management should lead the way, but people who have experienced it are probably the best promoters, and they're most likely to get everyone involved.
100%, and it's so important. And also, the thank yous. Everybody can automatically jump to the point this has to have a cash value, or it's got to be high value, and that's absolutely not been the case in my experience. The regular appreciation and the authenticity of it has been the big points, really. So I think you don't have to throw loads of money at this. Obviously, it's great to have different parts of your program, so that you either your e-cards or your thank you cards, whatever that looks like, and then your awards are great, and then also kind of career celebration or long service as well. So rewarding somebody for not just for being here for a long time, but also what they've achieved while they've been working for you, and what they've done during their time there. So just get different elements of your scheme as well, so that people can pick and choose which is the best one. But the everyday thank yous are vitally important, and e-cards, just getting an e-card, a thank you card through your inbox or wherever that is delivered can mean so much for somebody. And that can just be somebody you might have been having a bad day and they might say thank you to you. It doesn't necessarily have, so as much as I talk about kind of linking it to values and things, which is important, there's also the more informal side of where you're just appreciating somebody. And I think that's the difference between appreciation and recognition. In my mind, appreciation is very, you can just say a thank you for that, or you can just say, well, I were having a bad day, you really picked me up, or you really helped me with that problem. It's just appreciating another person, where recognition typically does tend to be a little bit more formal, might have a cash amount attached to it, which is fine. They're both very important, but in different ways.
Yeah, I've absolutely agreed. And I think when you combine the two, that's when you get the huge impact that you're hoping to achieve, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. And with that, because I see it being a sort of, your lower level ones would be your e-cards, and then you might have your nominations or whatever that looks like, and then that might be monthly or quarterly, and then ultimately you want that to lead up to some sort of event, for both at the airport and at Cox Automotive. And we had an annual event, so they looked quite different, both of those events, but the premise was the same. So your monthly winners would get invited to that event, and then there could be annual winners. So it was almost like the pinnacle, the Oscars of the recognition world. So you might get smaller, more regular thank yous, but then that would grow, and then you'd ultimately end up with this annual event where all the senior managers were there. There was a lot of promotion around it. So that worked really well as well.
I love that. All the creativity there. I love it. I can just imagine unleashing all the creativity. How can we make it even more relatable and interesting for everyone to get involved? That's amazing. So if you don't have anything, how do you suggest somebody starts? What do you suggest they start with?
I would say link it to your overall, because you do want it to be reward and recognition in my eyes. I think that's important because it is part of the same kind of bucket of resources. But it doesn't have to be super expensive when you start. You can build on that. So you could start with some e-cards, for example. That could be phase one. And then when you start to measure that and look at some of the statistics, start to do promotion around that gives you a bit of kind of data and information in order to go and say, well, look, this is working. we're linking this back to productivity, or we're seeing some sort of results, business results. Therefore, can we invest further in this and then move it on to the next level if you can't get any investment to start with? But then also the training of managers, of what that means, because it's great to create a formal scheme, but actually managers should be doing that on a daily basis. So as I talked about at the beginning, some of my more meaningful ones have been appreciation for me and my work in kind of coaching conversations, or people backing me up in a meeting and things like that. It doesn't have to be part of the formal scheme. That is part of it. But I think there are other ways to do that, and making managers aware that they can do that without having to have access to a chunk of money, or you can do that in everyday life. So that's an important one.
Yeah, regularity, isn't it? Just do it regular, do spontaneous. Like, it doesn't have to be formal or structured or anything like that. It just needs to be genuine.
Exactly. And even shout outs in a meeting, or if you do quarterly leadership calls or town halls or whatever, then make that part of the agenda in an authentic way. Don't just do it, because that's the other thing. It's like, if it's done wrong, it can have a really adverse effect.
Yeah. You can create a detractor very quickly.
Absolutely, yeah. If you get somebody's name wrong, or the reason why they're getting it, or it's not timely as well. So if they get, well, I can't remember why you were giving me that. That was like 3 months ago. That won't work either.
Yeah, that's really important. And I guess my last question is, how do you like to show appreciation?
I like to show appreciation regularly, and I like to do it in a way that I know is going to be meaningful to that person. So I've had people in the team where I know they would be mortified if I did a public shout out, for example. So, because some people just do not like that, do they? It's not for them. And then there's others that really get a buzz from doing that. So that really getting to know your people is so important. And just giving them a thank you. I do it regular. I usually finish the week just thanking the team, because it can be tough. Work is hard. It gets hard. It gets tough. We mustn't forget how hard they are working. So really getting to know them and doing it regularly and doing it authentically, because again, there's nothing worse than somebody just saying thank you because you think they're just doing that because they ought to. You need that to be meaningful.
Yeah. To be impactful, you need it to be meaningful. Absolutely.
And even if it's somebody's job, they're just doing their job, and you could say, well, you're getting paid for that. Yes, you are. But if they've done a really good job doing that, or it's been a tough time, or it's been quite stressful, then why not just say thank you? It goes a long way.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to take a lot of your time or cost a lot. It just a little.
And what I've always found, I find it's as good giving appreciation as it is receiving it.
Yeah.
Makes you feel good.
Yes, absolutely. It gives you a little boost yourself. Yeah. No, it's the benefit is both sides for sure.
Absolutely.
Wow. I mean, I absolutely admire you. I have to say, like, your creativity and everything that you've done so far is genius. Absolutely. I love it. And I think our listeners will absolutely love this conversation. Thank you so much for the time. Really, really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. No problem at all. Happy to talk about it. It's a great subject and one that I have a lot of passion for.
Yeah, we share that. Love that. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to Lead with Thanks. You've heard so many brilliant examples of how appreciation can make a difference in people's lives. If you found this episode helpful, make sure to share it with your colleagues and follow us on LinkedIn for more daily insights. If you want to put gratitude into action right now, send a Thankbox and make someone's day. Until next time, keep leading with thanks.